What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my updated college football top 25 rankings for week number 9 of the 2024 college football season. The second half of the college football season of 2024 is now officially underway, and we are now just about a week away from the first official college football playoff rankings for the new 12-team playoff this season. And we are now about to head into the month of November. This is the last weekend of the month of October coming up this weekend of the 2024 season. Going to give you my updated top 25 rankings as we head into the final Saturday of the month of October. And I made quite a few changes here, added some new teams here into this top 25 rankings. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. So we'll begin here with 21 through 25. So I got Navy at number 25, Army at number 24, Pittsburgh at number 23, Washington State at number 22, and then Vanderbilt at number 21. So you got Army and Navy here, both at number 24 and number 25. They're both undefeated. I finally got them ranked here. I didn't rank them last week. I did have some new teams here from last week, and I do add like 3 new teams from last week, 3 new teams for this week. So kind of a similar top 25, definitely from compared to last week. I had Arizona State and Texas Tech both ranked in the top 25, but both of those teams lost over the weekend. So now we can go ahead and rank Navy and Army here, both at number 24 and number 25. Well, I tell you what, both of these teams have just been impressing me a lot. They don't have like great enough resumes to move up into the top 20 and everything, and definitely especially in the top 10. I get it, they're undefeated, but their resume is not really good enough to move up into the top 10, not even close. And in my opinion, I like to see an Army versus Navy matchup with both teams undefeated. I know Navy's got Notre Dame coming up this weekend, but it would definitely be a lot more exciting of an Army and Navy game if both of these teams came, ranked in the top 25 and also undefeated as well. But I think both Army and Navy play Notre Dame on the schedule, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll kind of find out. Either of these teams can go undefeated for the rest of the season before they play each other, and I think they will probably decide who will be that top team in the American Conference. So yeah, Navy and Army, 2 very impressive teams throughout the season. They're both undefeated at 6-0. Army is 7-0, and they're both ranked in the top 25 for me for the first time this year. And they're ranked at number 25 and number 24, respectively. And then Pittsburgh at number 23. This team had a bye week, so not much to talk about the Panthers. But Pittsburgh not really that far behind of the top teams in the conference of the ACC. This team's got a chance to probably go to the ACC championship. They're not really that far behind SMU, Miami, and, of course, Clemson. Louisville probably out of it just because Miami beat Louisville, of course, 52-45. We'll talk about Miami in just a moment, but back to Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh's got Clemson on the schedule. I think that definitely will be their toughest test. I think the good news is they get that game at home, though, and that game will probably tell us a lot if Pittsburgh is definitely for real, and they're definitely an ACC championship contender. So watch out here for the Panthers. They're 6-0. They had a bye week, though, at number 23, and then Washington State comes in at number 22. This is a team that has a close loss to Boise State. I should have had them ranked last week and everything. I had Ole Miss at number 25, so I did take them out of the rankings because of their resume. They don't really have a good enough resume. Ole Miss does have the close loss to LSU, but I think Washington State's loss to Boise State is a much more better loss compared to Ole Miss's loss to LSU and everything. And Washington State's 6-1, so that's the reason why I put them here in the rankings this week. And then how about this? Vanderbilt at number 21. Who saw this coming? Vanderbilt ranked in the top 25 for me for the first time, and that I've been doing this channel for a couple years. And I didn't think Vanderbilt would be in my top 25. They're sitting there at number 21, 5-2 on the season. And you're probably wondering, why is Vanderbilt ahead of all these other teams? Washington State, Pittsburgh, and Army when they got better records, and then also Navy. Well, it's because of the resume. Vanderbilt has a better resume than all these other 4 teams. You got Vanderbilt with the win over Alabama by 5 points. That's their biggest win of the season. And then you got the close loss to Missouri in overtime back in the month of September. So yeah, Vanderbilt has a better resume than all these other 4 teams. Washington State's got a better resume than Pittsburgh because of the close loss to Boise State, and that team is in the top 20 for me. So yeah, Washington State and Vanderbilt are pretty similar, but Vanderbilt just has a better, resume resume than both Washington State, Pittsburgh, Army, and Navy. So yeah, this Vanderbilt team definitely clearly deserves to be in the top 25, and they also deserve to be here at the top of these 21 through 25 range. So yeah, that's my rankings here from 21 through 25. Let's now go from 16 through 20. So at number 20, I got Missouri here at number 20, Boise State at number 19, Indiana at number 18, SMU at number 17, and then Illinois comes in at number 16. All these teams were victorious, or actually, I should say Boise State did not play a game this weekend. You got Missouri, though, at number 20. They beat Auburn 21-17, came back from 14 down. Brady Cook goes down with the injury, but Missouri was able to survive this game. And that was the thing about some of these top 25 teams. They failed behind in some of these games, and then they come back from behind, either from like double digits down, or maybe it's just a single digit down. But Missouri was able to survive. They're now 6-1. They'll play Alabama this weekend. That'll be a very tough test for them, and it will be on the road. And I think that's going to be a very angry Alabama team based off of what happened against Tennessee and everything. So, yeah, Missouri's going to have to be careful in this one. And I think that's the reason why Missouri just did not play that well against Auburn and everything. Maybe they overlooked Auburn, and they probably look overhead, of course, to the Alabama game. But we'll find out how good Missouri especially is. I know they lost to Texas A&M, but we'll find out if they're still a top 25 team, in my opinion. But yeah, I got Missouri here at number 20. And I forgot to mention, Vanderbilt does play Texas this weekend. That'll be a very tough test for Vanderbilt, but the good news is they got that game at home, and they've already beaten a top 10 team in Alabama this year. So Missouri and Vanderbilt both at 21-20. Boise State had a bye week, not much to talk about them, but they got the best running back in the country, and they do have the close loss to Oregon. And what came down to Oregon and to Boise State here, I know Missouri has a better resume than Boise State right now, but, Texas A&M game for Missouri kind of, let them be behind Boise State, and Boise State was actually able to be competitive against a Power 4 team in Oregon. So that's the reason why you're seeing the Broncos here ahead of Missouri at number 19. But yeah, Boise State had a bye week, so not much to talk about them, but they got the best running back in the country, just like I mentioned, and they're here at number 19, possibly the favorite still in the Mountain West Conference. And then Indiana at number 18, boy oh boy, blew out Nebraska 56-7. This Indiana team is for real. They're 7-0, but their resume is not really good enough to move inside the top 15 and especially the top 10. I know a lot of people are ranking Indiana in the top 10, but it's based off a resume. Indiana doesn't have a great resume, but they're undefeated at 7-0, and they've been very impressive. This offense is very explosive, and the defense just overall continues. It's going to get better and better. You look at Indiana's schedule the rest of the way, they still got to play Michigan and Ohio State, both on the schedule. They got to play the Buckeyes on the road, but they get Michigan at home, and Michigan just lost to Illinois this past weekend, so that's a very winnable game for Indiana. And if Indiana can probably win out, maybe they can go 10-2, maybe with the losses to Ohio State and Michigan perhaps, but if they go 11-1, watch out for this Indiana team. They could possibly sneak in there in the Big Ten Championship, and you never know, maybe a playoff spot, but it's going to come down to their resume, what the playoff committee says. But Indiana here at number 18, and then SMU at number 17. Took care of business on the road at Stanford. Not really much to talk about this team, but they've gotten better ever since they lost to BYU in the month of September. Of course, that game and that loss came to BYU back on September 6th. And BYU, that loss is looking really good for SMU, so that's the reason why you're seeing them ranked here inside the top 20. And then Illinois at number 16 defeated Michigan 21-7. Boy, Michigan just could not move the football in this Illinois defense. Illinois came out really fired up in this one. I feel like Illinois kind of overlooked Purdue from this past weekend and was just ready to, take on Michigan this weekend. And that's what happened. So Illinois gets a big win over Michigan. It's not a great win for them, but you look at Illinois' resume. They have a much more better resume than, SMU and then, of course, Indiana. Maybe not Boise State and Missouri, but Illinois got the win, so we can kind of keep them here at number 16. But they have the close loss, or actually like the double-digit loss to Penn State. They only lost that game by double digits, like by 14 points, I believe. So, yeah, you can put Illinois here just inside the top 20 based on that resume. So, yeah, Illinois at number 16. These are my rankings here from 16 through 20. All right, 11 through 15 now. Texas A&M at number 15. Kansas State at number 14. Alabama at number 13. And then Iowa State at number 12, and then BYU at number 11. Texas A&M beat Mississippi State on the road 34-24. It wasn't a really good win for Texas A&M, but they were able to kind of, pull away there in the fourth quarter, and they still get the win either way. The Aggies will have a big test coming up this weekend against LSU. If Texas A&M could pull off the upset, they'll definitely be ranked inside my top 10 for next week's rankings, so watch out here for the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a team that's just gotten better and better ever since the loss to Notre Dame. That's a really good loss for them as well, and that Notre Dame game is looking like a really good loss for Texas A&M because Notre Dame has gotten better each and every single game ever since that win over Texas A&M, so the Aggies here at number 15. Kansas State at number 14. They beat West Virginia on the road 41-18. Actually took care of business. The Wildcats have gotten a little bit better ever since the loss, to BYU. They had that close loss there to BYU, or not like a close loss because it was a blowout, but BYU, they had the head-to-head win. That's the reason why you're seeing BYU ahead of the Wildcats here in these rankings. And then Alabama. I wasn't sure what to do with Alabama here at number 13. I thought about dropping Alabama all the way down to number 15 because of Texas A&M's resume, and then also same thing for Kansas State. But Kansas State actually doesn't have like a better resume than Alabama. Alabama has a much more better resume than Texas A&M and Kansas State. You got Alabama with a couple of wins. They got the win actually over Georgia still. That's a really good loss for them. And then they got the loss to Vanderbilt, which is not really a game they probably should have lost and everything, but it's a good loss for them because Vanderbilt's 5-2, and that loss is looking really good now for Alabama. And they also got the loss to Tennessee, so yeah. Alabama does have like a good resume, and that's the reason why I kept them here in the top 15. Like I said, I don't really know what to do with this team, but let's talk about their game. They lost to Tennessee 24-17 in the third Saturday of October. Boy, Alabama had a bunch of chances here to pull away in this game. If it wasn't for those penalties and also not really converting those third downs, Alabama probably would have won this game by double digits. But Tennessee's defense just was flying all over the place. There were some missed calls in this game, and of course the penalties and the flags really killed Alabama. I feel like there was over 20 penalties in this game if I'm not mistaken, and this was just a very competitive game, a physical game from the beginning. But Alabama, they do fall to Tennessee here. It's their second loss of the season. They lose to Vanderbilt and Tennessee on the year, but they have that win over Georgia still. That's probably the biggest win. But I'm telling you, this Alabama team, they could miss the college football playoff based off of what they've done in the last 3 weeks and everything. They lose to Vanderbilt 40-35, had a tough game against South Carolina 27-25, and then they lose to Tennessee here 24-17. We'll see what Alabama looks like against Missouri and see if they can bounce back there and have a much more better game. And, Alabama has just not been the same ever since that Georgia game. So the Crimson Tide at number 13. And then Iowa State at number 12 and BYU at number 11, still undefeated at 7-0. Both of these teams escaping nearly some upset alert type games. The Cyclones 38-35 win over UCF. They get the game-winning touchdown with 30 seconds to go. And then BYU, same thing for them. They defeated Oklahoma State on that Friday 38-35. And I talked about this in my recap video saying same score, same finish. And then, of course, the two teams remain undefeated. So, yeah, it's looking like BYU and Iowa State, the two teams to beat here in the Big 12. I think they're going to probably slip up somewhere just based off of what happened here this past weekend. But, yeah, both of these teams still undefeated, and they're ranked inside the top 15 for me, both at 7-0, and they're ranked number 12 and number 11 respectively. All right, and these are my rankings here from 11 through 15. All right, 6 through 10 now. We go to the top 10. Notre Dame at number 10, Tennessee at number 9, Clemson at number 8, LSU at number 7, and then Miami comes in at number 6. So Notre Dame jumps into the top 10. They beat Georgia Tech on the road in Atlanta. Wouldn't really say it's a road game, but it's a home kind of like game for Georgia Tech. But Notre Dame actually went out there and played like a Notre Dame team that we're kind of expecting here from the preseason. This is a Notre Dame team that's gotten better and better and better each and every single game ever since that first game against Texas A&M. I mean, if they would have won that game or actually lost that game, Notre Dame probably wouldn't be here in the top 10. But, based off of that win over Georgia Tech and based off of the win over Texas A&M, that's the reason why Notre Dame is in the top 10. And, of course, with Alabama losing, I didn't really know where to put Alabama at. So I got Notre Dame here at number 10. Again, a really convincing win over Georgia Tech. I thought that was a game where Notre Dame might slip up in, but the Fighting Irish, they took care of business, and they showed how they could be dominant here for the rest of the way. So Notre Dame at number 10. They got a big test coming up here against Navy this weekend, and we'll see how really good Navy is, but then also we'll see if Notre Dame can still be the Notre Dame team that we expected. And if Notre Dame wins, they're definitely maybe going to make the college football playoff just based on their resume, and they could probably get in there as a double-digit seed in the at-large spot. So, yeah, Notre Dame here at number 10. Tennessee at number 9 beat Alabama 24-17. I was impressed with Tennessee's defense in this game all throughout the day. Now, Tennessee did make some mistakes of their own, especially on the offensive side of the football. You know, they had a good drive going in that first drive with Dylan Sampson running the football. He fumbles the football, but Tennessee's offense got things going in the second half. And this is how they played against Florida this past weekend. You know, a couple weeks ago, they survived in overtime. Dylan Sampson had to step up for them in the running game, and that's what he did in this Alabama game. And Tennessee just took care of business from there. So the Vols here at number 9, they're now 6-1. This is a big, important win here for Tennessee. Tennessee for the rest of the year, you look at their schedule, you know, coming up, they got to play still Kentucky. They also still got to play Georgia, that game, of course, on the road. But if Tennessee goes 10-2, if they can, you know, win out and win 10 games, go 10-2, and if they can beat Vanderbilt, which I think it will be a tough matchup now, they play that game on the road, that will be a really tough test there for Tennessee. So, yeah, Tennessee at number 9. If Tennessee goes 10-2, I think they're automatically into the playoff just based on their resume. So, Tennessee here at number 9. Clemson at number 8 had a pretty tough time against Virginia. They only won 48-31, so the defense did not really play that well, but it was the offense that took care of business. So Clemson here at number 8. Still not that really far behind. They haven't lost a conference game. Of course, that one loss coming to Georgia. So Clemson here at number 8, and then LSU here at number 7. LSU took care of business against Arkansas on the road. Wasn't even close to begin with. I think we kind of figured out that LSU, their offense is much more, you know, not much more better compared to last year, but their defense is looking like it's getting a lot better. And this is definitely a different LSU team than we saw from last year, especially on the defensive side of the football. So LSU here at number 7, and then Miami at number 6. Boy, a tough game and a very good win against Louisville, 52-45. What a shootout that was, and you got to give Cam Ward a lot of credit. He did not just want his team to lose, refuses his team to lose, and that's what Miami's been about in the last 3 games. Cam Ward just continues to be that playmaker here for this Miami team, and they got some very talented wide receivers, some very talented players. Now, the defense does have some question marks going the rest of the way, but this team does go into Louisville, and they beat them 52-45, so they remain undefeated, and they're 7-0, still that top team in the ACC. Now, I know they should be in the top 5 here, but Miami doesn't have a great resume like all these other teams that you're going to see here in the top 5 range, but these are my rankings here from 6 through 10. And this is the top 5 for me. Texas at number 5, Ohio State at number 4, Penn State at number 3, and then Georgia at number 2, and then Oregon at number 1. So Texas does drop for me to number 5. This is kind of like how I did it with Georgia and Alabama. You know, I do drop Texas here to number 5. I still think this is a top 5 team. I know Texas's resume is not really good, but, you know, Miami's resume is not really good either. So I couldn't just put Texas behind, you know, Miami just based off of the resume, and also just based off of them losing a couple of touchdowns to Georgia and everything. But, yeah, this Texas team, they do drop to number 5 for me. They were at number 1 for me last week. They're now sitting there at 6-1. It was just a tough game from the start here for the Texas offense. Now, Texas kind of, you know, had some big opportunities to come back in this game with all the mistakes that Georgia was making, but Texas also made a lot of mistakes in this game as well. But Texas here, they lose their first game of the season, and the SEC is now wide open. It's a wide open race. There's a ton of priority in that conference, and, you know, Texas A&M and LSU, I think, are at the top because they haven't lost a conference game. So Texas here at number 5. And then Ohio State had a bye week, so did Penn State, so not much to talk about these two teams. I can't wait to see Ohio State and Penn State get on the field against each other. This should be a really good game between the two teams once they get on the field against each other in the month of November. Both of these teams 5-1, and then, of course, Penn State at 6-0. Ohio State does have that close loss to Oregon, so that's the reason why the Buckeyes jump in front of Texas. And then Penn State, They got the win over Illinois. I think that kind of makes sense to put them here just ahead of Ohio State just because of that win over Illinois. So I got the Nittany Lions here at number 3. And then Georgia, boy, what a big win for Georgia on the road at Texas. The defense, of course, was the difference here. They forced the turnovers like they had to. And then, of course, the offense. The offense actually wasn't really that good, to be honest. Carson Beck threw 3 picks in this game, but he was able to kind of make some good throws down the stretch there, and the rest was history. And yeah, Georgia just forced the turnovers. They made Quinn Ewers uncomfortable in the pocket. And, they just pressured this offensive line of Texas as well. So, yeah, Georgia definitely looked like the Georgia team that we've seen, of course, in the 2020s that won back-to-back national championships. And then, of course, the defense is known for having been really successful under Kirby Smart. And I think Georgia's back to being like that. It just takes time for Georgia to kind of get better with their defense. But, yeah, Georgia's got a ton of depth on this roster, and they have plenty of talent. So, Georgia here at number 2. And then Oregon is my new number 1 team heading into week number 9. This team has the win over Boise State. They also got the win over, Ohio State, so they have a better resume than all these other teams in the top 5. And Oregon just completely dominated Purdue on Friday night, 35-0. They are 6-0. Of course, they have that win over Ohio State. And I meant to put actually Oregon at 7-0. I think they're actually 7-0 if I'm not mistaken. Just a little bit of a graphic problem there, but the Ducks here at number 1. So those are my rankings from in the top 5, and those are my updated college football top 25 rankings as we head into week number 9 of the last weekend of the month of October. And we are now just a week away from the first playoff rankings of the 2024 season. Let me guys know what you think about my top 25 rankings down in the comments below. Give me your top 25 also down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.